and then we're opening for Five Finger Death Punch, which got canceled due to a big storm. But we're
That would
like,
be massive. Those guys are huge. I saw them open for Slipknot. That's how big they are. Yeah.
Well, those guys are great guys, because it was really funny that we, at the time, Steve Gore was on that adventure, and we had our little roadie with us that day, and the booking agent said to us, "Oh, they're not gonna go on with it. You know, he had the deposit. The guy's gonna wire the money." We said, "Nope, we're gonna go down there. We're gonna collect our money. We're gonna prove we want to play, and if there's some way we could do it." Well, the night before was Korn, so the crowd got jumping, and the field was destroyed. The stage sunk down, and whatever else. And so we get there, and San had to take the long road in with the van, a two-wheel van and trailer. How he got in there, and he came in, there's mud down the side of the van, and he rolls up to the
Mudmen, baby. There you go.
Oh, yeah.
And
you got the mud along the side.
He rolls down the window, and the lady that was, at the gate, he just started laughing, saying, "We're the Mudmen," right? Because it was just so suiting. And I go in the building to talk to the promoter, and that they've lost hydro, and there's candles and whatever else. And so the guy that's paying us, he's got a long line of people ahead of him, and whatever else. So I said to our little roadie, I said, "Let's go in our trailer, and let's see what our rider was," right? Because maybe we could take some beer back to the hotel, right? So we open up the trailer, and all of the big stars were getting trailered in with gators and stuff because it was so muddy and stuff. But here's these Five Finger Death Punch guys, and they're stuck until they gator them. There's fans that know that they're in there and they want autographs, so they're just going from trailer to trailer, eating and drinking the food. And so we come in there, and they were really nice guys, even though they looked like they were not the kind of guys that would want to talk to a Celtic band, but whatever. And so our little road manager guy was funny, so he's like, "Oh, can we have one of our beers?" And so they were good, and he said, "I guess no drinking and fighting tonight, hey boys?" And they're looking at us like, "What the hell are you guys talking about?" Right? But they were really good guys. That was a funny night. And so Sean works for us. "Can we take a 6-pack of our beer back to the hotel?" And they'd let us take 12. They were good guys. And I wasn't familiar with them until we got the gig and you get watching them and stuff. And as Korn was the same. We did a promo with Korn one time, and you look at them, you think, God, these guys are going to be unapproachable, and great guys. They treated us like kings, and we met them at the Junos one year, and they remembered our little participation. We piped them down Yonge Street in front of the tank into HMV back in Yonge Street, and 10,000 people, and they signed a lot of autographs, and they were great guys. Because the book doesn't always, the cover doesn't always, tell the story,
Yeah, they warn you sometimes. So I'm a big Korn fan. Like that's when I turned 14 is the height of the new metal, Korn, Limp Bizkit, Disturbed, Stained, all those bands. So I'm a huge Korn fan. And sometimes they say, you have to be careful meeting your idols, because you dream of meeting them and they're going to be so nice and you feel like you know them even though they don't know you, and they can be some horrible human beings. So it's nice to hear that the guys in Korn were nice, and he plays bagpipes, doesn't he? Jonathan Davis. They have that. They're known. That's part of the uniqueness, is they're super heavy and they have bagpipes usually to open their shows, or usually to open their albums, actually.
Well, he wasn't on that card. What happened that day was they were going to perform one of the songs from what was it? Follow
the Leader.
And so his grandfather died. And so at the last minute, they said, "Well, what could we do?" Because fans want autographs and stuff. So I forget, Kevin Campbell at Sony Music said, "Why don't we get the Campbell brothers down? We'll pipe them. We'll get them dressed out in camo and whole bit. And we'll pipe a tank down the street with Korn on the tank. And then we'll pipe them into the store. And then the band will set up with their gear and take pictures with fans and autographs." So they were eating Taco Bell and drinking, I forget, Bud Light or something, and they were sharing their rider with us, and they had a handler that said, "Get more beer, get more Taco Bell," because they refused to end the line. They were scheduled to do 3,000 autographs. They did the whole 10,000. Anybody wanted an autograph, they were great guys. And then at the Junos, something happened where Jonathan wasn't there again in Toronto, and we met the band at the Liberty Grand, I think it was, after party. They were great, Dan, but I would like to meet. That's on my bucket list to have a chat with him because of the whole pipes and the whole bit.
Well, he's another guy too that sometimes, we have had some people in the piping world that have a negative opinion because they're traditionalists, and unfortunately sometimes the piping and the fiddle world get a little too traditional, and it has to be a certain way, and their minds aren't always open to change and things like that. But Rob and I are opposite, that we feel that bands like Korn are really good for the bagpipes, whether it's your kind of music or not, but they put the bagpipes in a different light and they make it cool. Same thing as when we were teenagers. A friend of ours one time said to us, if anyone ever makes fun of the bagpipes, you tell them Bon Scott of AC/DC played them. And he said a few other words I won't say. And so, Bon Scott of AC/DC, Jonathan Davis of Korn, Peter Gabriel's had bagpipes on a song, Rod Stewart. Phil Collins learned the bagpipes himself. And there's a guy that we should have tried to somehow connect with, because that could have been a great connection. And then of course, Rod Stewart would have a pipe band, pipe him on the stage. Paul McCartney had a #1 hit with the bagpipes too. I
guess it's kind of like Ashley McIsaac that made playing the fiddle cool for several years.
Ashley's a perfect example.
He's a monster on the fiddle. I saw when my very first concert memory was my parents brought me. I was so young that at the concert, all I wanted was pizza. I didn't care about the music or the bands. I just wanted pizza. That. So it was Ashley McIsaac opening for Sheryl Crow, opening for the Tragically Hip. How about that? That's a pretty solid lineup for a kid. So that's my intro into the live music world. I think my parents, that's hashtag parent winning, I think,
Well, you can imagine our introduction. Like our mom used to play piano, and they would go to nursing homes and play for free and stuff like that. Like our mom was a very good person. And so I was supposed to actually learn the fiddle, and then I ended up getting the bagpipes. But we didn't have Google and YouTube and all these things growing up. We had like 4 stations maybe out in the country, like we had Channel 10. So basically, you grew up on, we did get Looney Tunes on the weekend. That was great. Sunday night, we got the Magic of Disney. I think it was called, it was great. Tommy Hunter show, some things like that. The Irish Rovers was a staple. Every Friday night, they had their show, and they were amazing. And that's the kind of music that we grew up on. It wasn't until like high school when we actually got the big aerial out in the farm, and we actually got, much music. And when you're driving yourself now, you're actually listening to popular current music of the day. But we actually grew up in real traditional kind of music. That was our influence. And the first concerts we ever went to were like old time fiddlers playing. And then of course the Irish Rovers would be one of the first real concerts, Stompin' Tom. So that was kind of our experience. Now there were so many topics there that I could have, but it's just hard to jump in and stuff like that. But we have found that we have met so many stars over the years. And to be honest, we found most of them have been fantastic. We used to do most of the Walk of Fames. So we've met so many stars, and we've been so impressed with there's certain people like Mr. Dressup, for example, Ernie Coombs. He's just an amazing guy. And he always would remember us and know us. Kurt Browning, figure skater, again, amazing guy. Every time he'd see you, he'd make a point of coming over and saying hi. And you get from the Maple Leafs there, we walk on there. Steve Thomas, guys like that, just amazing guys. But then there were some people that, Rob and I realized were right from the farm. And we've had some band members over the years that, again, we won't mention names, but they're real jerks. They're city and we're country, and we're just not quite cool enough for them. But anyway, we get to meet, somebody like, for an example, Celine Dion. I don't really know what to expect, but she was fantastic, and then again, Sarah McLachlan, fantastic.
What I find is actually the longer that someone has had a career in the music industry, and the longer they've been in the spotlight, it's actually reverse of what you think. They're actually a lot nicer. It's like they've been through everything, and they realize how improbable it is that they've had so much success and longevity, that they're grateful. It's like they've overcome that moment of spotlight where they think they're a big deal. And I find that if you ever meet someone that isn't that nice, it's like they've just got those few moments of in the spotlight. It's new to them, and they get the big head, and they're gone as fast as they came up. Is that kind of the same with you?
Totally agree. We say that all the time. We've actually been asked to come speak at schools and stuff like that. But I mean, if you don't have a personality, I don't know. I don't know how you're going to make it in this business. And I think that's why those people do last so long, is because when you actually get to meet them, they turn out to be fantastic people. I mean, there's been a few that have been a disappointment, but I mean, we had a song in WWE wrestling, so we've got to meet a ton of wrestlers. Hacksaw Jim Duggan was big. We have Kamala, the Ugandan giant. He passed away a year or two ago, but if you remember Kamala, he wore the big wooden mask in and thing, and we've got him pretending to play our bagpipes and stuff. We got Jimmy Hart and Mouth of the South that managed Hulk Hogan giving us a shout out on our documentary and saying we're his new favorite band. Great guy. Tito Santana, one of the nicest guys ever. We came up and we got talking to him, and he said we did the theme music for the Highlanders, and that would help us kind of have a little in. And we said, we did okay. We didn't do as well as we would have liked to, but we did a little bit. And he said, hey, don't ever talk like that. He said, if it wasn't for Andre the Giant, I wouldn't have made it. You got to have somebody in your corner. And see, what a humble and a nice guy. And then when you meet somebody, because trust me, we've met more than our fair share of people coming up through the ranks that they haven't accomplished anything yet, and they're very arrogant. And I wouldn't be surprised if, we had a few people in our first rendition that a little too big for the old britches there too, that
Rub people the wrong way.
Because we've heard different stories over the course of time where drummer starts playing with us and he phones up the Edge and he says, hey, I'm playing with the Mudmen now, and he's friends with Darren Pfeiffer, who's playing spin
Goldfinger and the Salads.
Yeah. And so he's like, could you maybe spin some Mudmen? And apparently, now whether this is true or not, or maybe he did want us to fire somebody badly, but the message came back saying, well, I don't think we'd have anything on file still. Is so-and-so still in the band? And he said yes. And he's like, well, I definitely wouldn't have anything on file.
Wow.
Ooh, I wonder,
that's harsh. But
there may have been. Oh yeah, I think there may have been some things that we weren't even aware of. We were playing Calgary one time. These guys came in suits. Never seen this before. We've got lots of bikers and things like that all over the years, and never had a problem, because if you have a little thing called respect, you do pretty good. These guys came in suits. It's like Men in Black or something, and they wanted to know if this certain person was there. And we said, no, he hasn't been with the band now for a year or two. And they're like, you sure? And then they laughed, but I don't think we could have helped the guy in that case that time. It's like, I don't know. And another time, a good Steve Gore story, we were out with Sudbury. And this bartender guy just started feeding the drinks to Steve Gore, just giving him free alcohol. But he did not realize how much Steve could drink, for one thing, either. And so he's handing the drinks to Steve. And then it comes out later that he realizes that
Steve's not the guy
not the guy he thought he was, because he was he thought that he was somebody else, and whatever situation happened in the past, and he was going to get Steve drunk and possibly get him back to his place, and he was going to get a thumping. But it turned out that
he couldn't afford to get him drunk.
Yeah, well, he had the wrong guy anyway. But it's pretty amazing when you hear some of these things that come out later that you're not even aware of, that bridges. One time we were playing a Walk of Fame ceremony too. And so at the Walk of Fames, there was always like Sheila Copps, the heritage minister, and obviously the Mervishes, and Belinda Stronach was
Al
on.
Waxman was on the.
Al Waxman was there. He was a nice guy too, really nice guy. And then Bill Ballard. And Bill Ballard was just a fantastic guy. And we never got the chance to go out and have an eating contest with him, but apparently he'd probably bury us. He could eat, apparently. Just a great guy. And anyway, we were talking to him and he said, you guys, you shouldn't have played that Clear Channel event. So we had this opportunity to open for like the Tea Party, Sloan, the Headstones, I think Edwin, and then they had on the smaller stage ourselves and Grindig. Don't remember. There's probably 3 or 4 bands, and so he said to us, "You shouldn't have played that gig because House of Blues gave us all these edge fests and snow jams, and they've been in our corner, and you don't jump." You don't do that. There's a thing called loyalty and stuff. Well, it wasn't up to us. We had management. And this was a great gig for us. We got tons of radio play.
And you also don't know who specifically runs which events, right? I mean, some of that is.
So we weren't in charge of the booking and stuff. Now, down the road, we've had so many things that there's going to be some things that are hard to talk about the book because, you know, we still don't want to burn bridges. But we've had situations where, you know, Mummy's working with us and so is Daddy, and they neither one want the other one to know that they're working with you, and so then somebody else wants to work with you. So it was awkward because you can't tell them that we're actually doing something secretly with this guy, and so it's very awkward. How can I do this? And that's happened to us a couple times in our career too, you know, and we did the right thing and did the political thing, but ended up didn't work out anyway. You know, we tried to do the political right thing, and because it's a sensitive business. If you rub somebody the wrong way in this business, it's true. The doors will all be closed. And
oh yes, politics rule. You were saying about meeting your heroes and stuff, and we joke around this business and call it 5-minute charm. And because some guys have it, you know, down to a art, they shake your hand, pat your back, come in, and blah blah blah, and you watch them go around the room. And we were doing a big wrestling event one time, and a wrestler came in. I won't see who it was. He was a nice guy, but he had this polished down. Hey, good, looking good. Really proud to work with you and all this. And he just, you know, he had all the lines memorized. But when we were playing, you had a list of questions that we haven't even dabbled on yet.
This is the first episode where we're an hour in, and I don't need the list at all. I don't need a single question because we know each other. So it's just a conversation, which is all good. We want to dive into this. I was going to say, you know, I would normally say you should write a book about all these stories, but you are writing a book. So you're already on top of it.
Well, the book's going to be great because we said Ron McLean has forwarded it. He's already written that. We've got some great quotes, and Glenn Healy's writing the first chapter because Glenn's a good buddy of ours and he's seen us at our best and our worst. And he's a funny guy and everything else. We got great quotes, whatever else. And then, you know, we got the video side of it with all the testimonies in that. But going back to your question that you asked, the one question you said, who would you want to have lunch with if you could? And I joked around and I said, I think I'd say Gordie Howe, because when we were playing the Walk of Fame,
Mr. Hockey.
I'm a big hockey fan, and I, you know, grew up close to Detroit and always liked Gordie and the whole bit. And so when we were playing the Walk of Fame, well, we were taking pictures and we were on TV and we had a little bit of clout and this and that. And Gordie didn't know who we were or anything else. But anyway, so he comes over to us and he said, you guys are doing it right. He said, you give people time, and time is worth more than money. He said, you guys you'll make an impact. And we were having a great conversation. And another good friend of ours, I won't say who it was, came right in and pushed us out of the way and had wheelbarrow full of stuff to sign for his nephew and his mom and his aunt and whatever else. And that was the only time that I got to talk to Gordie Howe or meet it. Well, I met him at a charity hockey game when I was a little kid. And
you could use a few more minutes with him, I think.
I could have used a few more, but